Hey, what's up? Big Earl, Northtown Sound. How's it going, everyone? This is going to be a new occasional segment on the channel called All Mod Cons, about modification and conversions on guitars. So instead of being videos about setting up guitars, playing with electronics and stuff, this is where the routers come out, this is where the files come out, this is where refinishing happens. These are the videos that we can subtitle, "Hey, let's watch a fat man fuck up another guitar." You into it? Because I am. Here's today's victim. Da, 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 da. It's an Epi Special 2. I've had the worst gas lately. I don't know why. I just feel like buying gear. And I went over to Best Buy, of all places, and glanced down on the shelf, and they had a box with this in it, marked at $116.97. It's across the room there. 117 bucks. Clearly a mistake, because these go for twice that. And of course, being Best Buy, they honored the price, so took it home, and thank you, Best Buy. So what do I have here? Well, brand new in box, Special 2, first human to touch this since it left the factory. Oddly, you know, the setup on this wasn't bad out of the box. It stays in tune, which is strange. It's got the trapezoid back tuners, which I always find are crap, and yet it's staying in tune. I don't know if you can hear that. Strings feel gross. Ew. A little bit of corrosion on the frets. The big thing is, though, that finish. Yawn. Yawn. And the pickups are meh, which I mean is pretty typical for an Epiphone in this price range. So I've been staring at this guy for a week, trying to figure out what to do with it, and I think I know what I'm going to do. That's Ardo! Lipstick tubes. I love lipstick tubes. They sound so great. Everybody always screws up how to use lipstick tubes, though. Go listen to some garage rock. That's how you use lipstick tubes. Fuzz tones. Trust me on that. And you know, as much as I like them, though, I've never liked the Danelectro reissues that much because they've copied that 60s neck. It's very narrow. It's thick, which I don't mind, but it's narrow. And these are built a lot better than the originals were. Trust me on that. Now, one thing I've always liked about these specials, the necks feel quite good to my fingers. So, let's try throwing in some lipstick tube pickups on there. Just got to figure out how I'm going to mount them because I don't know if I want to go with a big guard on this thing. We'll see. That's Thompson. That's the heavy metal Rickenbacker. One of these years I'll do a video on why you never, ever, 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 ever become a Rickhead. I'm a bitter man about this company. One thing that I always dug about the 610 style, though, is the way that they did some of the contouring. I don't know if you can quite see it, but it's almost a perfect bull nose that they put in places on here, which feels really comfy. It'd feel better if they continued it everywhere, but, you know, Rickenbacker, why would they do something logical like that? And I've often wondered, you know, what would a single cut feel like if it had a bull nose or as close to a full bull nose as I can get? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do some routing on this thing. We're going to refinish this thing. We're going to go with a Dano wiring on this thing. And the color on this is inspired by a palette at the place where I make my mortgage money. Seriously. Let's see how this one turns out. But I got her apart here. Kudos. We've got conductive paint in here. That's nice. Came apart well. And I've mentioned before, I am paranoid of necks that were under tension that you take the strings off of. Wood has a memory. Wood always likes the bad memories around me. So I got it clamped. I'm going to throw some more clamps on here in a bit. Just wanted to share a quick tip when you're taking stuff apart. And this took me a lot of years to figure out. You go to any office supply place, you can buy mini Ziploc bags. So not only are you keeping things put together, you can keep them coordinated. So I know that these screws here are for the output jack and for the back control plate on the guitar. This is really handy when you're working on guitars. I'm working on John at the same time. His stuff is black. Good luck finding black screws when you need them. Okay, it's the next day, Labor Day long weekend here in Canada, 2016. Beautiful Edmonton. Got to 4 above last night. I got woken up by the furnace kicking in this morning. And I'm out in the shed and my roof's leaking. This is not going to be a good day. Anyways, got the body out here. We're going to start working on it. I did a video on D, which was Junior that I stripped down. And people sure have a hoot and a holler because I flash heated it with some fire, which is an old-fashioned technique of doing things. Kind of explained it. Hopefully this is going to allow me to show it. So, heat gun. I used to sell chemical strippers for a living. Do you know why they make chemical strippers? Sell you more of them. So I'm just going to try here at the neck plate. So I hit this with the heat gun. I don't know if you can see it in there, but what it's doing is it's bubbling in little bits and pieces, hot as hell. So this is why people don't like doing guitars with heat guns, because of the fact that you just get little bubbles off and they figure, oh, there's got to be an easier way. Well, there is. Time to go pyro. Got some nice propel and fire. There we go. Now, the idea behind this is we're trying to quickly heat up the clear coat. And then it'll actually come off a lot faster. Suppose if I had an oven or something, I could, you know, throw this under the boiler for like a minute and then let it cool, and then a minute and let it cool. We like that. Got some pyro happening. So I'm going to do that a few more times. The surface isn't damaged, it's just warm. And as it cools down, when we hit it with the heat gun, you'll see what happens. There's a bunch of ridges that are coming up in the finish where it's sort of separating from itself. I don't know what the technical term is on this. So now, if I hit it with the heat gun, it looks like it's still blistering. Shit. Nope, that's doing what I want it to do. It comes off like this now. Whereas before, I could probably illustrate it with this. Here where it blistered, it'd come off in little chunks. Because I flashed this, it's coming off in nice strips. Which is what you want. Makes the job a heck of a lot easier. See, I'm not just crazy hillbilly. I was a baker for years, and never occurred to me to use a bench scraper, which is great because you got a lot of control and you're less likely to scratch things on the side or gouge. So, huge bonus. And where do you pick these up? Well, hey, how about at the Swedish Superstore? They're like $1, so keep a couple around. Problem when you're trying to do a job and you're trying to video it. So anyways, the scraper. That was just working quick, but you can see you can do the edges, do everything, swap directions. Great tool. Ran into a little bit of a snafu here. The back has a good sealer and a good primer on it, and it's nice and thick. The top is a very thin finish. And there's some sort of veneer on here. which I've popped in a couple of places. So I'm just going to have to sand that. Ooh, look, it's a relic finish. I could charge more for this. Yeah, that was fun. You can see where this top veneer, there's voids underneath and it's popping through. This one's like paper. So when I go to do the next round of sanding, I'll have to pop those through and do it. The back ended up being hilarious. That sealer coat was like Bondo. So I had to take most of the veneer off. Still got to take a little bit more off there, I think, in the final sand. Went through my roundover bits, and the biggest roundover bit that I have is 1.5 inches. So I don't think I'm going to quite get a bull nose out of this, but it's going to give me a good start, give me a good idea anyway. So I'm going to make some sawdust fly, and just to make this more interesting, we're going to try this. We have the router cam. Cue music, maestro. Whatever bit of tear out. I want that a little bit more rounded, so I'm going to do this again with, what is this? 1/2 inch round over, I think, and then get some sanding and some filing. A lot of grain tear out on the back. You can see right there where I couldn't get into it with the belt sander, but I mean this whole back end was just a mess. And as usual, I forgot to plug off the output jack, so I'm going to have to fix that, but I know how to fix that now because I've done it so many darn times. Chopped the V, just some fur I had kicking around, put that in, trim back, round it over, plug the center hole. The only dowling I had that was close was oak. This is going to get primed, so that's not a problem. This phalonic material they put on here, oh man, I don't know what to do. So what I did is I just hacked out some of the places it was bubbling, and I've just flooded it with super glue. Okay, it's going to be the relic finish, you know, the thing all the kids like, so I'm not getting too anal on it. This is back to 220 around the edges and on the back. Primer! This thing's getting the punk rock paint finish, of course. That stuff. Oh, you can't finish a guitar with that stuff. This was 117 bucks. I'll do whatever the fuck I wanna. I have the spray cam up. Even though we're doing the punk rock finish, what you want to do is you want to hold it back, very light coat. You'll notice what I was catching more was the misting than anything. A little thick in a couple of places. I goofed up there right at the end. But I'll let this cure, sand this, recoat, probably 5 to 7 coats of primer. Very thin coats. That's what you want to do. Why do you want to do really thin coats? Simple. If I need to sand this back again, it sands easier. Kind of realized I didn't need to be so anal in priming this thing. I'm relicking it. Duh. But whatever. Anyways, ready to color it as close to frost blue as I could find quickly. And I got the spray cam out. You ready, boys and girls? Spray paint the walls. Okay. Relict. People pay money to get this done to their guitars? This is what I call playing guitar. I'm gonna leave it there because I think that'll do. This is gonna be called Chep. I like it. Ran into an issue. The pickup showed up. I assumed they'd be standard S Mahui width, but they're actually quite a bit wider. So I just hacked in here, painted it blue, So I got room to fit here. And then to cover this, I'm trying something new. I quickly grabbed an old piece of acrylic I got around. It's kind of thick, but it will work. And hacked it. And it's back painted blue. And those are going to fit in, and this is going to be screwed on. So it's kind of going to look like a sort of mesh thing like the old 60s Hagstroms had. So I'm just going to beat this up a little bit. Then I'm going to mount this up and we're going to do some wiring. And that's her. Okay, so scuffed up this thing so some of the finish underneath shows, a few marks on it. It's wired up. I stuck on a tailpiece I've had kicking around since probably the 90s. Kind of scuffed up the pickups a bit. They're still too shiny. We'll see what's what. Tried to scuff the bridge, not much happened. And then these knobs. I ripped those knobs off of a toaster oven that an ex-girlfriend had that she was throwing out I don't know how long ago. Slap the neck on, get her going. So I clean this one off here, and if I go like this, you can make out the cooties there. So that's corrosion that's on here. It's probably just from shipping. So, hey, dude, you're just using some crazy homemade tool there, and dude, that's just regular 3M paper that you're using. You got to get the specialty stuff. Well, no, I mean, like. I work on guitars. I got lots of guitars that I work on. If I was selling guitars for a business, I might want some Pro Tools because I'd have to do this a lot more often than I need to, but this gets the job done. You know all those fancy, vintage guitars that go for 6 figures? Guess how it was done. There we go. Look at that. Nice and shiny. Actually did an okay job of crowning those too. So 800, 1200, 2000, and then finish off Barkeeper's Friend. Thank you, Vintage Drum community, for turning me on to this stuff. I love this stuff. Design flaw that I don't mind. So we got albedo over here, and yet the neck looks immaculate. So it almost looks like I put a new neck on this thing, which, I don't know, I find that kind of funny. Down to string up. We're going late, 942s. Why 942s? Only 3-pack they had. Figures. Okay, the only concession on the peg head. Truss rod cover. Flipped it over, sprayed it. So set up good. The neck didn't move very much. Moved a tiny bit, which is not surprising. Got the action where I like it. Just going to let the string sit overnight. Adjust off the intonation. And, yeah. Demo's in order. Okay, Cheppy. Finally got some time to do sound sample on this. The video for the wiring turned out like crap, so it's probably faster if I explain. So we got twin lipstick tube pickups, which are literally the cheapest ones I can find on Amazon, that are wired in parallel to the volume and the tone. There's no switch on this thing, it's always 2 pickups on. Last minute decision that I made, I flipped the front one around. So the polarity is now going south, north, north, south. That makes sense. Which is largely for noise control, but it does a little bit of a phasing thing to it too. And I like the sounds of this, man. I really like this with fingerstyle because it really reacts nicely with the softness of the attack, eh? So again though, lipstick tubes. Do yourself a favor, stop watching this, go download Nuggets, okay? Learn something about real 60s music. When people were playing the original Danos, what were they doing? They were running through fuzz tones and creating garage rock, which is a hell of a lot more interesting than a lot of stuff that was going on back then. So let's do some garage rock. I've got the Mosky Fuzz Face down there, which is a great 60s early iteration of that circuit, real raspy and nasty, kind of like me. And for shits and giggles, we got the Mosky Blue Delay in there, just kind of like a slapback thickening sort of situation. So, you know, to me, the sound of lipstick tubes is something like this. The advantage of the vintage pickups when you're running into like fuzz situations is they're kind of pushing the signal, but barely. Does that make sense? It's like if you drop the 4-cylinder into, I don't know, like a Suburban or something like that. It's gonna work, but just barely. So it really allows the voice of the fuzz to come through. So this thing just gets totally gnarly, which I love. Which is the sound that I want out of this thing. So yeah, quite like this. So that's that one. That's Chep. The round over on this worked really, really well. It's a lot more comfortable, I find. I've actually been playing this a lot up in like deer hoof territory. It's really weird. It needs a little bit more of the natural wood coming through, so I'm going to have to bang this up a bit more, but I mean, I'll just bang it against the cupboard here or something, I don't know what. I should have swapped the tuners. These are going to be a pain in the ass, but that's a fast fix. And it needs a different tone cap, frankly. I just went with the one that was on there. Not quite voiced right, but yeah, I'm happy with that. Nice little sonic tool. So let's figure this one out. The guitar itself was $117. The pickups, again, the cheapest lipstick tubes I could find on Amazon. These were $10.25 a piece. About, I don't know, half a can of primer, third of a can of blue paint, and a third of a pack of guitar strings. Let's call it 150 bucks, if, you know what I mean? And again, that's Canadian, so if you live in a place where your currency doesn't suck, it'd probably be cheaper. So, and this is going to be a recording tool of mine, not just a playing tool. So I'm rather happy with that one. Little epilogue to this story. So while I was shooting this, the keyboard crapped on my computer. Go figure, right? So I had to go over to Best Buy to pick up a new keyboard. And while I was there, glanced over on the shelf, and guess what they had on sale? The SG version of the Special. I was like, I'm going to grab me one of those because they had them on for $105. And of course, this Best Buy didn't have one. So I was like, oh, you're going to sell the display? And they're like, yeah, but we got to give you a discount. $90. And you know this is not going to stay this way. It just ain't. Problem is, it's supposed to freeze tonight. Time is not on my side, so this is going to have to wait for a future episode of All Mod Cons. So hopefully you learned something from this. If you dug it, tell your friends. I really don't care about that like button down there. I'm into anti-social media, sort of like the rest of my life. If you didn't like it, you know what? Tell your friends anyways to come and watch it. Maybe they'll learn something you can get through your thick skull. And if you dug those sounds of those Mosky pedals, head on over to my site, northtownsound.com, or over to reverb.com/shop/northtownsound. Check out my selection of econo pedals that sound great and don't cost a lot of money, because you can get a lot of really great sounds out of stuff that doesn't cost a lot of money. And I don't have a pick to flash off right now, but whatever. Big Earl here, Northtown Sound. Thanks a lot for watching. Later.